Hello and welcome back to Bums Breakdown. Today we're going to be doing a Detroit City preview for this weekend, March 11th. The season is finally back underway, and as always, we're joined by Dylan. Dylan, how excited are you for the season to finally be back?
Max, I am very, very, very excited. It is good to be back. I am gonna be there early for setup. I can't wait to soak it all in.
Yeah, it's exciting times, and again, the off season felt like it went forever, but I'm glad to be hopefully much the thick of things once more. We'll go through a quick kind of history of Detroit City here. Obviously, Detroit is only the second season in the USL. I know they were previously in NISA. I know you've got a bit more information though. Kind of, can you run us down a quick brief history of Detroit City, please?
Yeah, sure. I thought it would be good to get into their history a little bit. First of all, because this was the first time we'll ever be playing this club, despite them existing for over a decade now. And I just think they're a really neat story in lower leagues U.S. soccer. But so just to do like a brief recap, they were founded in 2012 by five Detroit residents who I think are still involved with the club in some capacity, but maybe not quite in the same capacity they were originally. I couldn't find much details beyond that, but it kind of makes it sound like it was like a pub back of napkin kind of deal. So I'm going to choose to believe that unless somebody corrects me. They played in the amateur league's fourth tier National Premier Soccer League, I think is what it stands for, NPSL, for 7 years from 2012 to 2019. They had a lot of success there. They made the playoffs every year or almost every year, and they were two-time winners of the NPSL Great Lakes region. And in 2017, they actually made the national semifinals where they lost on penalties. And then in 2019, the club announced that they were going professional and joined NISA. And the 2020 season obviously was broken up for reasons. But Nisa did end up having a spring and or a fall 2020, spring 21 season, both of which were won by Detroit City. And then Nisa's more full 2021 season was also won by Detroit City. So they have a rich history of success. And then they joined USL in 2022 and made the playoffs in their first year there. But we'll get more into last season for Detroit in a bit. But yeah, that's a bit of the brief history of the club. Max, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I mean, obviously I mean, the fact this is only the second season in the USL, but like I said, they've been around for a long time. Again, I think one of the kind of main talking points about Detroit City is their fans. Really, their
Absolutely.
loud fans. They love the team. And I know there's been some talk about MLS too. Obviously, I know everyone knows about the San Diego, Las Vegas, but I know Detroit's been chucked around a few times there as well. But I know a number of their fans really aren't too keen on that. I mean, unless their team goes through as Detroit City. So obviously some interesting stuff there, but obviously I know their fans are probably, I mean, they're loyal as can be, and obviously I know we are the San Diego loyal, but Detroit City, possibly some of the best fans in the league, I'd have to say. Um, but I know obviously you want to talk a bit on their manager as well. Obviously their manager, another guy from England, so he must know what he's doing. But kind of, can you give us a quick little breakdown on their manager, please?
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to talk about Trevor James a little bit because I think like Detroit City, he represents a good story in the development of lower league soccer in the United States. He worked as an assistant manager at LA Galaxy from 2006 to 2010, then as an assistant at the Portland Timbers from 2010 to 2012. He then worked as a scout for the Chicago Fire for a couple of years before being an assistant manager at Indy 11 for a couple of years. The thing that really fascinated me about his story, other than the fact that I think he's a good manager, was that he joined Detroit City in 2019 when they were still an amateur club. And he won their region that year. And then he took them into professional leagues and won every single thing they entered there. And then took them into the USL and made the playoffs. And they honestly probably could have even gotten a home game if they hadn't kind of fallen off a bit there in the middle of the season. So I just think Trevor James is clearly a good manager. He's managed to do it at every level he's done it so far. And the extremely passionate Detroit City fans you mentioned before, I know he is highly revered by them. I've never seen a Detroit City fan say a bad thing about Trevor James, nor would they have reason to. He is as loyal as their fans seem to be, and he seems like a brilliant guy. We'll touch on this a bit more later, but one of the things that makes me think he's a really, really good manager is how good Detroit City are in second halves of games. He clearly makes in-game tactical adjustments at a very high level. So I think he's a great manager, and I just love the story of kind of putting in the time as an assistant and then rising through the ranks from amateur to professional.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't say an underdog story, but again, he's put his time in. He's kind of earned his position, and the fact
Hmm.
he's been with Detroit City, kind of moving through the professional ranks and to get them where they are now, obviously goes to show how good of a manager he is. And like you touched on there, hopefully this Saturday doesn't make too many good tactical decisions throughout the game and too many good subs that may kind of adjust the game. But we'll see how this Saturday goes. And kind of want to go over kind of how they did the last season. They ended up finishing seventh in their first season in the USL. Ended up losing 3-1 to Memphis in the first round of the playoffs. And then they lost in the US Open Cup round of 32 to Louisville on penalties. Again, everyone knows how good of a team Louisville City are as well. And did actually go ahead and beat Columbus Crew in the previous round as well. So a good little run for them as well. But kind of, I know you touched on a bit kind of last season. Do you think last season seventh was where they should have finished? I mean, I know you mentioned they could have got a home playoff game. I mean, could they have gone even higher?
Yeah, I do think they could have. They had a bit of a rough patch for a while there during the season. I think probably late summertime. I would have to look to be certain about that. But and I know that they had a lot of games that probably could have been wins, but ended as draws. So I think that while seventh was not an unfair place for them to finish in the East, I do think that it also would not have been unfair for them to finish fourth. So I think they were a really strong team last year with a really solid defensive base. There's obviously been some big changes for them personnel wise this year, but I would expect them to continue to be a tough team to beat, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think obviously we'll go into the tactic and stuff there too. But again, defensively, they're a very very solid team. We'll go into the kind of the off-season kind of signings and changes for them. Obviously, they lost Hoppenot. I pronounced it perfectly, probably. Again, was the assist leader in USL. Then lost Declan Wynn too. I think nearly 20 assists between them. Declan Wynn, obviously one of the best fullbacks in the league, and Hoppenot, obviously a great attacking threat for them. I think those would be two big misses, and I know they've tried to replace them. Obviously, they brought in Bill Hard from USL League One, won the league with Tormenta, and was a comeback player of the year, and added in Skage Simonson, who got 8 assists for Luden, who again will probably be the Hoppenot replacement. But I think Simonson probably will be one of the key players come this weekend. And last year, they were predicted to finish eighth in the Eastern Conference from USL Tactics. Obviously, going over their kind of additions and players they've lost in the off season, do you think that'll affect them too much coming into this season? You think they've kind of lost a lot of talent? They've kind of kept the same kind of level?
Yeah, truth be told, I did not pay that close of attention to League One last year. I kept up on results, but wasn't that familiar with, players and performances. I do know that the people who seem to know what they're talking about rate these two guys, Bill Hart and Simonson, very highly. So I think that they absolutely will be able to adjust and, maybe not replace guys like Hobano and win, but be able to get some goals because I do think that while this team will be as solid defensively as they were last year, they've managed to maintain, I think, the entire same defensive unit. I do have some questions about where the goals will come from. As you alluded to, nearly 20 assists between Hobano and Win, and they also lost Pato Botello Foz was 8 goals for them. I think they scored 30 something goals last year, so that's not an insignificant amount. So I think the question for them going forward this year will be where are the goals going to come from?
And obviously, I know they're very defensively solid. Obviously, there are a lot of games last season finished like 1-1-0, 1-1, 2-1, a lot of kind of close games.
Right, right.
And then we'll kind of go into the kind of how they're going to line up and their tactics. Primarily, I mean, it's going to be a very close matchup. Again, they play with kind of a three back going into a five back in defense. Basically, from what I've seen, is the defense is their system is defense first, sinking into a five before springing full threat down the flanks, which is pretty similar to us. Like you mentioned previously, there too. They've kept their back three from last season. Goalkeeper Stan Washer, I know we spoke about before as well, potentially favourite for goalkeeper of the year. Whether again, if your goalkeeper's getting goalkeeper of the year, is either because, again, he's an amazing keeper or he's having a lot of shots to deal with. So it's not always the best thing to be up for.
Yeah.
And then Maxi Rodriguez in the middle, I think, will be one of their key players. And obviously got Simonson coming in from their attack, I think could be a key player from this season. Anywhere else in the pitch that you think that tactically wise they'll do well?
I first I want to issue a correction. Detroit City scored 44 goals last year, so I don't want to get slayed in the comments. 44 goals, 8 is still not an insignificant number. Yeah, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. I think Steinwasser is going to be their big player. Simonson coming in, trying to create in offense. Maxi Rodriguez, like you said, I think is a guy who makes them tick both in offense and defense. Definitely the heartbeat of their team. I think that will be an interesting battle on the field in the opening game. The only other player I would look to highlight for them for this season is Devin Amu Mensah, who I think will be injured actually for this opening game this Saturday. But he really blossomed last season. I know he was a favorite of USL Tactics John Morrissey. And I expect big things from him this year once he's healthy and kicking again. But yeah, I think other than that, you pretty much covered it.
And obviously, we've got like a predicted lineup for them this season. Obviously, Amu Mensah more than likely will come back into the team. But I've got here, obviously, Steinwasser in goal. Back three are Brian, Carroll, and Lewis. Obviously, those back three are coming from last season as well. Fullbacks on the right, probably more than likely. Williams on the left, Goddard. And then we've got Rodriguez, Diop in the middle. Obviously, they're going to be playing we think, a 3-4-1-2. Ruts in that kind of attacking midfield role. And then Simonson and Matthews being those front two. Simonson more than likely kind of being a shadow striker playing off of Matthews. And from what I've seen, again, he likes to get in those kind of little gaps in between the defensive midfield. So I think Simonson will be definitely one to watch out for there. Moving on to finally our team, San Diego Loyal, going to be predicting our starting 11. Again, we were missing 3 players from the last game of the season through red cards, which I can't remember the last time I saw a game where my own team got 3 red cards. But I won't say luckily, we've shipped one off up the road to a team that we don't have to mention too much. But apart from that, obviously, we're missing Stoneman and Guido. For our starting 11, do you really think too much changes from kind of last season?
No, I don't think so. I think, with Stoneman out, I think it's most likely that we see Jackson step in, or Simba, excuse me. Um, but and then with Guido out, I think we can reasonably expect that we'll see Corona, Charlie, and Colin in the midfield. I think, like we alluded to in our last episode, the season preview, I think Conway and Toomey up top is a pretty safe bet at this point.
Yeah, so but I mean, basically we've got here Koke in goal, back three, Carl Adams, Akon, and then Simba.
Hmm.
Nick Moon probably more than likely on the left. I know Elijah knows probably switch around this season, but Elijah Moon as fullbacks, midfield three of Corona, Charlie Adams, and Colin Martin, and then Toomey and Conway up top. And obviously, I know we mentioned previously too that those midfield 3 spots are going to be tough to kind of fight between, but having one of those guys suspended, I guess makes it a little bit easier to predict that midfield 3. And then moving on to kind of key matchups on the field, where do you think is going to be kind of areas that if we win those battles that we should do well in the game?
I think the 2 big areas to look at are going to be the wing backs. Both teams play like kind of a 3-5-2 sort of setup. And so, will Elijah and Moon be able to push their wing backs back and kind of contain them and do what we need to do on the offense? So that will be a good battle to watch. I expect that'll be fun. And then also in the midfield, who will be able to run things? Will it be Maxi Rodriguez, kind of keeping things ticking for Detroit City? Or will it be, Charlie and Corona and Colin kind of keeping things moving for us? I expect that being at home will have a lot of the ball. But I think the midfield is definitely going to be an important battle.
Yeah, I think if we can break them down early enough, I think we should be good. My only kind of issue, I think, is that, again, they've got the kind of likes of Maxi Rodriguez kind of pulling strings in the middle. I don't know too much who's going to be out of our midfield 3. Who's going to be the attacking threat. Obviously, losing Guido in there is a huge loss, and I don't think any of the 3 we have possibly starting is a Guido replacement. So it'll be
No.
interesting to see kind of how that looks in the midfield. But again, like you mentioned there, the fullbacks are going to be a key area. Again, both playing essentially a 3-5-2. And really, I think whoever gets the first goal, I think if Detroit get an early goal, they'll probably sit in, defend most of the game. But I think hopefully if we get a goal, it should open them up more and have a bit more of a free-flowing game. And then to wrap things up here, predictions for the game. Obviously, I want score, and then potentially, who do you think is going to score?
So I have gone 3-1 San Diego for my prediction, which I am acknowledging is very optimistic. I think Detroit City, like we've said, are a super solid defensive team. And as I alluded to when I was talking about Trevor James, I think he's excellent at making in-game tactical adjustments. So I do think if we're able to score early, we might have a lot of joy getting into some open space and a more open game. But if we get into a second half 0-0, 1-1 grind fest, I will be shitting it a little bit. I'm gonna go 3-1. But I think 2-1 was maybe a little more realistic, but I'm going to go optimistic and say 3-1. Goals from Conway, uh, Toomey, and Ebby on a corner.
Okay. And any predictions for the Detroit City scorer? Or is that going too far?
Let's go. Let's go Maxi Rodriguez on a penalty.
Okay. I'm gonna again go with the safer bet. I had down here 2-1. I think again it's gonna be a close game. If we can get that early goal, I think it may open up more, may get more goals. But I don't really want to get carried away for the first game of the season. But I'm going 2-1. I'm going with Conway again, who I think hopefully again has a breakout year for us in the USL. And then my other goal, I'm gonna go with a Nick Moon cut inside,
Very nice. I
far
would love
corner.
that.
And then I do think Simpson. I think Simpson grabs a goal for them. I think he'll be key for them in the game. And obviously, I know Max Rodriguez hopefully doesn't get a goal and it stays 2-1, but no doubt will be a close game. But anything else looking forward to this game? Just I guess just looking forward to be back.
Yeah, I just mostly excited to be back, but I think always, and we'll get into this in future shows, but a new season always brings new tactical ideas and new approaches to the game, and I think it'll be fun to see what kind of stuff Nate Miller comes up with to keep everyone on their toes.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think obviously in future episodes too, we're going to break down obviously more how we play, try and get in game footage. So it's tough to kind of go off pre-season last season. So we'll see how this goes. But I'm really looking forward to getting these shows underway. And again, we will be releasing these kind of before every single game we play this season. And then also the next episode to be on the lookout for will be the post-game show, which we'll be recording right after the Detroit City game. Hopefully in a good mood, but we will see you guys
Yes.
very soon.